Odyssey, Book 15. Pallas Athena now went to wide Lacedaemon to tell Odysseus' son it was time to return. She found Telemachus and Nestor's noble son on the porch of Menelaus's palace. Nestor's son was sleeping, but Telemachus had been lying awake all through the night, thinking about his father. Athena, her eyes flashing in the dark, said to him, Telemachus, you've been away too long. Think of the wealth you left behind at home and all those insolent men ready to devour it. Your journey will have been for nothing. Hurry now and rouse Menelaus to send you on your way so you can find your blameless mother still at home. Her father and brothers are pressuring her to marry Eurymachus because of all the suitors he gives the best presents and now has stepped up his wooing. You have to watch out he doesn't carry off your treasure. You know what a woman's heart is like. She wants to enrich the house of the one who weds her, never mind about her former children, and the husband she once loved. Once he's dead, she doesn't give any of them a thought. No, you go and put all your possessions in the keeping of the best maidservant in the house, until the gods show you your honored bride. And one more thing for you to keep in mind. The suitors' ringleaders have set up an ambush in the strait between Ithaca and rocky Samos. They mean to kill you before you make it home. I don't think they will. These mooching suitors will be in their graves before they can get at you. But keep your ship out away from the islands and sail by night as well. One of the gods who watches over you will put a wind at your back when you make landfall on Ithaca. Send your crew with the ship on to the city, but you go first to the swineherd's hut. He has a soft spot in his heart for you. Spend the night there and tell him to go into the city and bring word to Penelope that you are safe and have come back from Pylos. And with that she was off to high Olympus. Telemachus awoke, and woke up Pisistratus with a nudge of his heel, saying to him, Wake up, Pisistratus, get your horses and yoke them up so we can get on the road. Nestor's son, Pisistratus, answered, Telemachus, there's no way we can drive in the dark, no matter how eager we are to get on the road. Besides, it'll be light soon, and we should wait until Menelaus comes out and sets gifts on the chariot and sends us off with a farewell speech. A guest remembers a host's hospitality for as long as he lives. He spoke, and dawn rose up splashed with gold. Menelaus, who had just gotten out of bed with Helen, was coming toward them, and when Telemachus saw him, the young hero quickly threw on his silky tunic, flung a cloak on his shoulders, and went out, the true son of godlike Odysseus. When he reached Menelaus, he said to him, Menelaus, son of Atreus in the line of Zeus, send me back home to my own native land, for my heart is now eager to return to my home. And Menelaus, famed for his war cry, Telemachus, far be it from me to detain you here when you yearn to go home. I no more approve of a host who is too welcoming than of one who is too cold. Due measure in all things. It is just as wrong to rush a guest's departure when he doesn't want to go as it is to hold him back when he's ready to leave. Make a guest welcome for as long as he stays and send him off whenever he wants to go. But do stay until I can bring some gifts out and load them onto your chariot. Fine gifts, as you will see. And I will order the women to prepare you a meal from our well-stocked larder. It's a double honor, and sensible too, for the traveler to eat before setting forth over the boundless earth. And if you wish to go all through Hellas and into the heart of Argos, I myself will go with you. I will yoke up horses and give you a tour of the cities of men, and no one will send us away empty-handed. Everyone will give us at least one thing, a fine bronze tripod, or perhaps a cauldron, a team of mules, or a golden cup. And Telemachus, in his cool-headed way, Menelaus, son of Atreus in the line of Zeus, I would rather go straight home. I did not leave anyone behind to watch my possessions. I'm afraid that in my search for my godlike father, I may perish myself, or that some precious thing may be lost from my house while I am away. When he heard this, Menelaus at once ordered his wife and her serving women to prepare a meal from their well-stocked larder. Then Eteoneus, just risen from bed, came up. His house was nearby, and Menelaus had him kindle a fire and roast some of the meat. While he was doing this, Menelaus himself went down to his scented treasure chamber, accompanied by Helen and Megapenthes. When they came to where the treasure was stored, the son of Atreus took a two-handled cup and had his son Megapenthes bring a mixing bowl of solid silver. But Helen went to the chests that held her robes, the richly embroidered robes she herself had made, and this beautiful woman, Helen of Argos, lifted out the robe that had the finest embroideries, an ample robe that shone like starlight beneath all the rest. Then they went back through the house and came to Telemachus, to whom Menelaus said, Telemachus, may Zeus, Hera's thundering lord, bring you to your home, just as you desire. Of all the gifts that lie stored in my house, I will give you the most beautiful and the most valuable, a well-wrought bowl, solid silver, with the lip finished in gold, made by Hephaestus. The hero, Phaedimus, king of the Sidonians, gave it to me when I stayed at his house on my way home. Now I want you to take it home with you. And the son of Atreus placed the double-handled goblet in Telemachus's hands. Then strong Megapenthes brought the gleaming silver mixing bowl over and set it before him. And Helen, lovely in her bones, came up with the robe and said to him, I too give you a gift, dear child, this robe, a memento from the hands of Helen, for your bride to wear on your wedding day. Until then, let it lie in your mother's keeping. And my wish for you is that you come with joy to your native land and your ancestral home. She put the robe in his hands, and he received it with gratitude. Then Pisistratus put all of the gifts into the chariot's trunk and looked at them a while with wonder in his heart. Menelaus now led them into the house, and the two sat down. A maid poured water from a silver pitcher over a golden basin for them to wash their hands, and then set up a polished table near by. Another serving woman, grave and dignified, set out bread and generous helpings from the other dishes she had. Boethus' son carved the meat near by and divided it up, and the son of Menelaus poured the wine. They reached out to all the good cheer before them. And when they had had their fill of food and drink, Telemachus and glorious Nestor's son yoked the horses, mounted the inlaid chariot, and drove through the gate and echoing portico. And the son of Atreus, red-haired Menelaus, went after them, holding in his right hand a golden cup filled with honey-hearted wine, so they could pour libations before setting out. He stood before the horses, lifted the cup, and said, Farewell, young men, and bring my greetings to Nestor, the old commander. He was to me kind as a father when we Greeks fought at Troy. And Telemachus, in his clear-headed way, we will tell him all these things just as you say, Zeus-born, when we come to his land. As surely as I wish I would find Odysseus home, so I could tell him how good you have been to me during my visit with you, and tell him how I come home myself with many a treasure. As he spoke, a bird flew by on his right, an eagle clutching in his talons a silvery goose, a large tame fowl from the yard. Men and women ran after it, shouting. The eagle got closer, then veered off to the right in front of the horses. This lifted everyone's spirits. Nestor's son Pisistratus was the first one to speak. Zeus-born Menelaus, what does this mean? Is it a sign for us too, or for yourself? Menelaus the warlord was thinking this over, looking for the right way to interpret the sign, when long-robed Helen took the words from his mouth. I will prophesy as the immortals prompt me, and as I see it myself, just as this eagle came from the mountain where he was born and bred, and snatched up the goose bred in the house, so shall Odysseus, after long, hard travels, return to his home and take vengeance. Or he is already at home, and is even now sowing the seeds of the suitor's destruction. And Telemachus, in his spirited way, may Hera's thundering lord grant it, and I will pray to you as to a god. He flicked the lash, and the horses took off through the city and out to the plain. All day long they jostled the yoke that held them together, and the sun set, and the world grew dark. They came to Pherae and pulled up at the house of Diocles, son of Ortilochus, himself a son of the river Alpheus. There they spent the night, and Diocles gave them the hospitality due to guests. When dawn brushed the pale sky with rose, they yoked the horses, stepped up into the inlaid chariot, and drove out through the gate, an echoing portico. Pisistratus flicked the lash, and the horses took off. Soon after they reached the high rock of Pylos, and Telemachus had a word with Nestor's son. I wonder if you could do me a favor, Pisistratus. You and I go back a long way because of our father's friendship. Moreover, we're the same age, and this journey together will cement our friendship. This is what I want. Do not drive me farther than my ship. Drop me off there. I'm afraid the old man will keep me in his house against my will. He means well, but I really have to get home. Nestor's son thought it over, trying to decide how he could rightfully do Telemachus this favor. He made up his mind and turned off to the sea and the ship there. He stowed the beautiful gifts from Menelaus, the clothes and the gold, in the ship's stern, and urged his friend on, speaking to him words that had wings. Get yourself and your crew aboard quickly before I reach home and tell the old man. If there's one thing I'm sure of, it's this. Once he has you in his house, he won't let you go, and he'll come here to get you himself if he has to, and he won't go home empty-handed. No matter what, he's going to be angry. And he drove his horses back to the city with their beautiful manes flowing in the wind, and quickly reached his father's palace. Meanwhile, Telemachus was urging on his crew, "Put all the gear in order in this black ship, men, and let's go aboard and get under way." They carried out his orders and were soon all on board and sitting on their benches. Telemachus was busy with all this and was offering sacrifice to Athena by the ship's stern when there came up to him a traveler from a distant land. He was an exile from Argos, because he had killed a man, and he was a seer. He traced his descent from Melampus, who had lived in Pylos in the old days as one of its wealthiest men, but left for other parts, fleeing great Neleus, that most lordly man, who had seized his wealth, and kept it from him for 1 full year. Melampus lay imprisoned in Phylacus's house, and suffered terribly because of Neleus's daughter, and the delusion which the goddess Erinis had laid upon him. He escaped, however, and drove off the lowing cattle from Phylace to Pylos, and got even with the godlike Neleus, and brought Neleus's daughter home to be his brother's wife. He himself then left for the horse country of Argos, his destiny being to live there and rule over many Argives. There he took a wife and built a lofty house and fathered 2 strong sons. These sons were Mantius and Antiphates, and one of them, Antiphates, sired great-hearted Oicles, and Oicles was the father of Amphiaraus, whom Zeus and Apollo showered with love. But he did not reach the threshold of old age, dying in Thebes because of a woman's gifts. Melampus's other son, Mantius, sired Polyphaedes and Clytius. Clytius, because he was so beautiful, was snatched away by gold-stitched Dawn to live with the immortals, and Apollo made Polyphaedes a seer, a high-hearted man, and the best of men, after Amphiaraus was dead. Eventually he quarreled with his father and moved to Hypericea, and was the prophet there. It was his son Theoclymenus by name, who now came up to Telemachus, as he was pouring libations by his black ship, and spoke to him these winged words. "Friend, since I find you making sacrifice here, I implore you, by your sacrifice and by your God, then by your own life and the lives of your crew, tell me truly what I ask, and do not hide it. Who are you, and where are you from? Where is your city, and where do your parents live?" Telemachus answered in his clear-headed way, "Well then, stranger, I will tell you exactly. I was born in Ithaca, and my father is Odysseus, if he ever existed, but he has met a grim fate. So I have taken my comrades in a black ship in search of news of my long-absent father." And godlike Theoclymenus answered, "I too have left my country because I killed a man, one of my own clan. He has many brothers and kinsmen left in blue-grass Argos, powerful men, and I am on the run to escape a black fate at their hands. It seems I am doomed to be a wanderer. Take me on your ship, please, since I have taken refuge with you now. Don't let them kill me. I think they are coming." And Telemachus, in his cool-headed way, "I won't push you away if you want to come. Welcome aboard, and share whatever we have." With that, he relieved him of his bronze spear and slid it onto the deck of the ship. They went aboard. Telemachus sat down in the stern, Theoclymenus beside him. The sailors untied the stern cables, and Telemachus called out orders to them to take hold of the tackling. They fell to, raising the firwood mast and setting it into its socket. They made it fast with forestays and hauled up the white sail with rawhide ropes. And Athena, her eyes flashing with sea light, gave them a tailwind that ripped through the sky, speeding the ship across the bright salt sea. Pronu and Chalcis, with its beautiful streams, passed by quickly. And then the sun went down and the seaways grew dark. The ship surged on with Zeus's wind behind it, on to Phae, and past lime-white Elis, where the Epeans rule. Then Telemachus steered her out again to the swiftly passing islands, wondering whether he would dodge death or be caught by the suitors. Meanwhile, Odysseus and the noble swineherd were having supper with the others in the hut. When they had satisfied their appetite for food and drink, Odysseus spoke among them, testing Eumaeus to see whether he would still take care of him there on the farmstead, or send him off to the city. "Listen now, Eumaeus, and you other men too. In the morning I'm going off to beg in the city. I don't want to eat you out of house and home. So tell me what I need to know, and give me a guide who can lead me there. Once in the city, I can knock about on my own, as I must, hoping for a cup of water and a loaf of bread, and I might go up to Odysseus's house and bring some news to Penelope. I might make the rounds of the insolent suitors and see if they will give me some dinner from all the good food they have. I might even start waiting on them, doing whatever they need. I'll tell you something now. Thanks to Hermes, the guide, who lends grace and glory to all that men do, when it comes to serving, no one can touch me in splitting firewood, building a fire, roasting meat, and carving it, or in pouring wine, or in any of the things lesser men do when they wait on nobles. And the swineherd, greatly troubled, responded, "Where did you get such a notion, stranger? You must want to die if you really intend to go in there with that mob of suitors, whose arrogance reaches the iron heavens. Their serving men are not at all like you. They're young, well dressed in tunics and cloaks, handsome and sleek. The tables are polished and piled high with bread, meat, and wine. Stay here. You're not bothering anyone. Not me nor any other man who is here, but when Odysseus' son comes, he himself will give you a cloak and tunic to wear, and will send you wherever your heart desires." And the enduring, godlike Odysseus answered, "Eumaeus, may you be as dear to Father Zeus as you are to me, for you have given me a rest from wandering the world in grief and pain. Nothing is harder on a man than homelessness. But when it comes to feeding his belly, a man will endure whatever hardship and sorrows he must. But now, since you are keeping me here a while, and asking me to wait for Telemachus, tell me about noble Odysseus's mother and his father, whom he left behind on the brink of old age when he went to Troy. Are they still alive and under the sun, or are they dead now and in Hades' gloom?" The noble swineherd made this response: "I will tell you, stranger, since you ask. Laertes is still alive, but prays constantly that his life will dwindle away in his halls. He grieves terribly for his missing son, and for his own lady, his wedded wife. He took her death hard, and it delivered him to an unripe old age. She herself died of grief for her son, a miserable death, that I would wish on no one dear to me. For as long as she lived, hard as it was for her, I always enjoyed seeing how she was, asking about her health, for she herself had brought me up with long-robed Ctymene, her youngest child. I was brought up with her, almost as if I were one of the family. When we reached that lovely time of our youth, they sent her to Same, sent her off to be married, and got themselves countless gifts in exchange. As for me, my lady clothed me in a cloak and tunic, very fine ones, and gave me sandals for my feet, and sent me off to the fields. But in her heart she loved me more than that. I do without now, but the blessed gods make my work prosper. I stay busy with it, and it gives me enough to eat and drink, and give some to beggars. From my mistress now I get nothing pleasant, word or deed. Trouble has come to the house, these overbearing men. But servants still need to speak to their mistress face to face. Hear all the gossip, eat and drink, and afterwards take something back to the fields, the sort of thing that warms a servant's heart." Odysseus, his mind teeming, responded, "You must have been awfully young, Eumaeus, when you were forced to travel so far away from your parents and home. How did it happen? Did your parents live in a broad-wayed city that was ransacked in war, or were you alone, out in the fields with your cattle and sheep, when raiders grabbed you and took you in their ship, and sold you for a good price to your master here?" Then the swineherd Eumaeus told his story. "Well, stranger, since you're curious about this, sit back and relax and drink your wine. These nights are ungodly long. There's time to sleep and to enjoy stories both. You shouldn't lie down too early. Too much sleep can leave a man tired. If any of the rest of you would like, you can go sleep outside. Just eat something at daybreak and go out with our master's swine. We two are going to stay here in the hut, eating and drinking and swapping stories about each other's hard times. Past sorrows can comfort a man, especially one who has suffered much and wandered far. But on to what you asked me about. There is an island called Syria. You may have heard of it, above Ortygia and off toward the setting of the summer sun. It doesn't have many people, but it's good land, rich in flocks and herds, full of grapes and wheat. There's never any famine and no disease. When folks grow old, Apollo and Artemis come to town with their silver bows and shoot them dead with their gentle arrows. There are 2 cities that take up the island, and my father, Theseus, son of Ormenus, ruled over both, a man like a god. One day, some Phoenician traders arrived, greedy men, with a shipload of baubles. In my father's house was a Phoenician woman, tall and beautiful and skilled at crafts. One of the craggy Phoenicians seduced her as she was washing her clothes, lying with her in their hollow ship. the sort of thing that will gull the mind of any woman. Afterward, he asked her who she was and where she came from. She promptly pointed to the high roof of my father's house. I am proud to say I am from bronze-rich Sidon and am a daughter of Erebus, a wealthy man. But Taphian pirates abducted me as I came from the fields and brought me here and sold me to the master of that house over there, who paid a small fortune for me. The man who had lain with her in secret said, "Would you like to return with us to your home and see your high-roofed house? And your parents too? They are still alive and said to be rich." The Phoenician woman responded, "Perhaps if you sailors will swear an oath that you will bring me home without harming me." When they had sworn the oath, the woman said, "Be quiet now, and if any of you sees me in the street or at the well, don't speak to me, or someone may tell the old king in the palace, and he might suspect something and lock me up in painful bonds and sentence you to death. Don't forget this. Just sell all your merchandise, and as soon as your ship is laden with goods, send a messenger to me in the palace. I'll bring whatever gold I can lay my hands on. And there's something else I can put up for my passage. I'm the nurse of one of my master's children, a clever boy who always tags along with me. I'll bring him on board. He'll get a good price, in whatever foreign land you sell him off." And with that she went off to the beautiful palace. The Phoenicians stayed in our land for a full year, and filled their ship through all the trade they did. When their ship was loaded for their voyage home, they sent a messenger to tip off the woman. A cunning man came to my father's house with a golden necklace strung with amber. While the woman in the hall and my noble mother were looking it over and offering a price, the man nodded to the woman in silence, nodded, and went back to his hollow ship. She took me by the hand and led me outside, stopping on the porch to scoop up 3 of the golden goblets left on the tables by retainers of my father, who had banqueted there, and then gone off to debate in the council. She tucked these goblets into her bosom and bore them off. I innocently followed. The sun went down and the streets grew dark. We hurried on to the glimmering harbor, where the Phoenician ship was moored. They had us aboard, and the ship set sail over the water with a following wind. We sailed on for 6 solid days and nights, but when Zeus put a 7th day in the sky, Artemis came with her showering arrows and shot the woman. She fell with a thud into the hold like a tern plunging down. They threw her overboard for the seals and fish, and there I was with a broken heart. The wind and the waves bore the ship along to Ithaca, where Laertes bought me, and that was how I first saw this land. Then Zeus bred Odysseus said to him, "Eumaeus, your story, with its tale of your painful ordeal, has touched my heart. But in your case Zeus has set some good alongside the evil, since after all your suffering you wound up at the house of a kindly man, who gives you food and drink and treats you well. You have a good life. But as for me, I came here while wandering around from city to city." They spoke to one another in this way, and then lay down to sleep, but not for long, for dawn rose in the blossoming sky. Telemachus and his crew were now near to the shore and furling the sails in the early light. They struck the mast quickly and rowed the ship up to her mooring. They threw out the anchor stones, made the stern cables fast, and then disembarked onto the beach, where they prepared their meal and mixed the glinting wine. After they had eaten, Telemachus, clear-headed as ever, spoke to them. "You men row the black ship to town while I go visit the fields and the herdsmen. Around dusk, after I've looked over my lands, I'll come to the city, and tomorrow morning I'll set before you as wages for your journey an excellent feast of meat and fine wine." Then godlike Theoclymenus put in, "And where shall I go, dear child? To whose house, of all those who are lords in rocky Ithaca? Or should I go straight to yours and your mother's house?" And Telemachus, in his clear-headed way, "Ordinarily I would say go to our house, for it has everything needed for hospitality, but it wouldn't work out for you right now, since I'll be away, and my mother won't see you. She doesn't appear often before the suitors, but weaves at her loom in an upper chamber. I'll tell you, though, whom you can go to. Eurymachus, son of Polybus, whom now the Ithacans look to as if he were a god. He's the best man, and is the most eager to marry my mother and take over my father's position. Only Olympian Zeus, high in the air, knows if their doom will come, crashing down on them before any wedding day." As he spoke, a bird flew by on the right, a hawk, swift herald of Apollo, clutching a dove in his talons, plucking her as he flew, and shedding her feathers down to the ground, between the ship and Telemachus himself. Theoclymenus called him aside, and clasping his hand, said to him, Telemachus, that bird did not fly by on our right without a god sending it. I knew when I saw it that it was a bird of omen. Your lineage is Ithaca's most royal. You will rule forever. And Telemachus, clear-headed and calm, would that what you say come true, stranger. Then you would have from me such gifts that whoever met you would call you blessed. Then he said to Piraeus, his trusted companion, Piraeus, you have always come through for me, and you went with me to Pylos. So now I ask you to show this stranger hospitality in our house. Take good care of him until I come. And Piraeus, a spearman in his own right, said, Telemachus, no matter how long you stay out here, I'll take care of him and give him my hospitality. Then Piraeus boarded the ship and gave the order for the crew to board and untie the stern cables. They were soon at their places. Telemachus, though, put on his fine sandals, took his bronze-tipped spear from the ship's deck, and stood by as the crew untied the cables and shoved off. Then Odysseus' son stepped out with swift strides until he reached the farmstead where his countless swine were kept, by a servant whose heart was loyal and true.